yourself a question here as we start round number 2. The Tokyo Dome, of course, Mike Tyson in his traditional black trunks, James Buster Douglas in white, already has gone further than some of the opponents of Mike Tyson, namely the last opponent, Carl the Truth Williams, last July, was felled in the first round.
Hey, don't do that. Don't do that. Break.
And there was a lot of people that didn't expect Buster, quite honestly, to get through the first round, and that's why Don King has brought this show on the road. Look at Buster landing some shots here. And he has him back Mike up. Mike standing straight in front of him. Look at this, Buster landing some shots. This is surprising here. Getting the jab through, stopping Mike. Mike comes through, leans to the right, and then throws that left hook. You still just get the idea that when is Mike going to explode? You've seen it so many times before. And I still have to say to this point, Buster hanging in there pretty good. Now he ties him up, and referee Moran has to separate the two. Mike comes through and misses the jab. You know, a lot of psychology involved with this fight. Before the fight, you heard about Buster Douglas' mom passed away a short time ago, and he's dedicated this fight to his mother, and he had a bit of a cold this week, but that didn't seem to bother him. This is the biggest night of his life. Midway through the second round, a place that many of us thought we might not see. Hey, there's a grazing right hand gets through. The left hand again by Douglas. Surprisingly, here in the second round, this is Douglas's round in the second. The first round probably would be scored more even by the judges because they wouldn't pick up immediately what Buster Douglas was doing. And we, of course, have the advantage of the fellas in the truck that have the punch stat information actually telling us that Mike Tyson only landed a few punches in the first round. But definitely Buster is winning the second round, which is very surprising. Of course, Mike at any time lands that big shot. And that's the exciting thing about the heavyweight division, because one punch can end it all, but certainly change the tide of the fight immediately. Right now, it's a better fight than we ever dreamed of here in Tokyo. But you still, as I said before, get the feeling, well, as Larry Rezzadio says, hey, watch that head, Mike, when you come in. Said Larry Rezzadio. He's the judge. We're actually talking about Octavio Miran. Oh, an uppercut got through that time by Buster. Look at this, Buster landing some shots here. Well, one thing for sure, he's come to fight.
Okay.
This is as good as we've ever seen Buster Douglas, even in the fight against Tony Tucker, which was a real tough fight. Buster looked very good in the early going of that IBF championship fight, and then as the bell ends round number 2, Buster kind of went by the wayside. And at his size, maybe it's a strategy of Aaron Snowell and Mike Tyson to just kind of, you know, make a fight of it through the early going and then catch up with them in the later rounds with a big shot. If that's the strategy, then it's working, because certainly Buster Douglas is using a lot of energy to this point. Let's see how it goes here. Round 3, Mike looks like he's got the adrenaline flow going a bit better here. Mike, of course, has had some personal problems, and you wonder, everything has come kind of easy for him. Is he bored? You know, he had all the highly publicized problems with his marriage with Robin Givens, and of course the death of Customato. Good left hook to the body that time. And
Don't do that, Mike. Don't do that, Mike. Break. Okay. All right.
They tell me again, interesting information, that Buster Douglas has landed over 50 punches and Tyson's landed only 16. Now, the problem is the judges don't see those statistics that we're telling you. So I would say that the judges probably scored the first round even and the second round in favor of Buster Douglas. See Mike much more aggressive, but again, Buster's not being backed off by Mike Tyson, which is something we just haven't seen in other fights.
No.
Referee Moran tries to separate the two big fellas. And the action continues. It's clear that Buster Douglas is not intimidated by Mike Tyson. Mike not using a lot of movement. You notice we haven't seen him do the dip. He's kept that head kind of in the face of Buster Douglas. But we're only in round 3, don't forget. And Buster has that history of kind of wearing down as fights progress. Midway point now, and this the third round. Octavio Moran, the third man in the ring. His name is actually Octavio Moran Sanchez, but he goes by the last name Miran. Unbelievable, the performance to this point anyway of Buster Douglas. Douglas, of course, in the white. You see him feint right, and then he doesn't throw the right hand. Mike tying him up inside. Buster doing something successful. When he gets Mike inside, he grabs on and holds. You see right there? And that prevents Mike from doing what we've seen in other fights, dipping down and then coming with that big uppercut. Haven't seen an uppercut yet by Mike Tyson. That one he kind of shoots from the hip and misses the left hand. And notice Buster doing a pretty good job getting his right hand up by the ear so he's not susceptible by getting really creamed by that left hook of Mike Tyson. Oh, there's the left hook that got through. That's the first real telling blow by Mike Tyson. And now let's see if Buster can hang on and keep him off. Instead, it's Buster coming back. Mike paws and lunges. You know, Mike has been very successful against some tall guys. Bone Crusher Smith, a big tall guy. Mitch Blood Green, a big tall guy. And both of those opponents just sort of hung on to Mike. With Buster is hanging on when he gets inside, but trying to keep him off with the left and then throwing the right hand. Closing seconds now as the bell ends, round number 3. Bob Sheridan here. We're in Tokyo, Japan. And a beautiful arena here where the Yomiuri Giants play baseball most of the time, and the Japanese crowd of some 35,000 on hand here enjoying what they certainly didn't expect. And that's it. We're in the early moments here of the 4th round in Tokyo. Buster has been successful getting his left jab through and holding Mike off. He really hasn't backed Mike off yet, and that will be an indication if maybe Buster's for real. Mike, you saw, landed that big left hook, and there he goes headhunting with the right hand, and that's what Aaron Snowell told him in between the 3rd and 4th round. But again, their philosophy may be to try to wear this big guy down, but at this stage, into the 4th round, Buster not showing any signs of slowing down. It looks a bit lethargic here in the 4th. He's not up on his toes, not shooting out that left as much. Well, there he goes. As I said, he throws the left and the right behind him. Notice another thing about Buster, some pretty good hand speed. And for some reason, Mike doesn't seem to be into it, but he's a guy that, as we've seen so many times in other fights that have gone any distance at all, like against Jose Rebalta that went 10 rounds, and I suppose you could talk about that 7th round fight with Tyrell Biggs, that Mike, when he decides to pick up the pace, can do it. That's the midway portion of the 4th round. And Octavio Moran separates them for about the 20th time so far here. Of course, the people on hand here are thrilled that Buster is still around here in the 4th round. And the big question is going to be, can he back Mike off? Can he keep that left going? Well, gee, there's a right hand that gets through. I'm talking about the big questions, and all of a sudden the big fella executes it. See him bounce the head back again of Mike Tyson? And he's been very successful with the ability to tie Mike's hands up. For some reason, Mike just doesn't look as aggressive and menacing as I've seen him in so many other fights. But all that can change with one big shot. And don't ever forget that. Wow. That's the great thing about the heavyweights. It's always sudden death.
Break. All right.
There's the ability of Buster Douglas again. You have to say, in all the fights and all the world telecasts we've done that have involved Buster Douglas, this is the best I've ever seen him look. And of course, styles make fights, and you see, there's Mike missing that big left and just grazed the chin of Buster Douglas, and Douglas answering with loaded up shots from his own as the bell ends. Round 4. Hey, we've got a good fight on our hands there in Tokyo. Wow. Buster filled with confidence as we go to round number 5. You know, on my scorecard, I actually have Douglas winning 2, 3, and 4. And look at this. The first 2 big shots and 3 and 4 shots landed, and this is the 5th round, are landed by James Buster Douglas. Not intimidated at all. Now, you see what I mean about backing him off? This is the first guy I've seen that's been able to do this. As I say that, Mike comes right forward. The trouble with trying to analyze what Buster's doing now is I just have the feeling that Mike wants to drag this into some later rounds. But there was a real good right hand that landed off the hand of James Buster Douglas.
No, 2 punches. 2 punches. Go. Okay.
A little bit of swelling and puffiness by that left eye. See the jab followed by the right hand. Mike with puffiness by that left eye here in the 4th round.
No punches. Break. Okay.
Now Buster's back up on his toes like he was in the real early going.
No.
You know, as the rounds go by, this guy is gaining more confidence.
Okay.
So Mike doesn't want to drag this thing any further than he really has to now. Mike never used to being hit as much as he's been hitting this fight. Oh, big right hand landed that time. Buster's, if 2, 3, or 4 is a question mark, he's winning the 5th round handily. You don't need to be a professional boxing judge at the midway point here, and even inside there he lands an uppercut. Mike lunging with the left hand. And Buster seems quick enough on his feet, so as Mike lunges with that left hook, he's able to slide back. A lot of that has to do with the height and reach that he has. But he's chosen to stand and fight with Mike, where Bone Crusher, Smith, when he fought him, and Mitch Blood Green, every time they get any place near Mike, they just tied him up, and it made for a lackluster fight. Buster Douglas, for however long this goes, has come to fight.
No.
Buster's making a statement that at least he's not afraid of Mike Tyson. And that's something that we can't say for too many of the opponents that have fought Mike, no matter whom they may be to this stage in Mike's young career. Is Mike having an off night? You don't know. I mean, because again, the guy that lives by the big punishing punches, I've never seen him in any of his fights behind in the fights before. And again, I use Bone Crusher Smith and I use Blood Green because they're the tallest guys that I can recall him fighting. You see that punishing body shot with the right hand to the side of Buster Douglas's body? Coming up to the closing seconds of the 5th, and this is certainly Buster Douglas's round. All right, and Buster not taking any of the shenanigans from Mike, and that tells you something in itself. Back into the corner of Mike Tyson, and we'll listen this time.
You got to stay tight on this guy, Mike. You got to jab, right hand around here, left hook up here, come back into right hand. All right, you ain't punching him.
I tell you, it's very instructive, educational to watch these tapes again because you watch the fight live, you see it one way, and then you look back and you go, whoa, I didn't realize all of that. Now with hindsight, Teddy Douglas, for this one night was a beautiful fighter, hard hitting, snappy, crisp with his combinations. Just your thoughts on Douglas putting it all together physically in the ring.
Well, I'll say a couple things and then I'll say what the key was to me, at least. He always had the ability, but he, as we said earlier, never had the constitution, never had the will to go along with it. But he knew how to stand tall. He knew how to throw a jab. He knew how to put punches together. Defensively, he was good. He knew how to fight. But here, watch this. You know what he's doing here? Different than anybody else. He's not afraid to throw the punches. It's that simple. He's not intimidated. He's letting the punches go. There were other guys.
Oh, they're coming hard too.
Listen, there were other guys that were tall. There were other guys that had ability. There were other guys that had reflexes, that had hand speed. But they were afraid to consistently let the punches go and find the holes. He wasn't afraid to let the punches go.
And as this fight continued, and it continued, people slack-jawed just kept watching it. It was, to me, as unbelievable as Santa Claus suffering vertigo. Look at this. Jab, 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 bang, bang, bang. And Tyson has no answer. He's
heavy hands too. He's got a real repertoire. I mean, he's got a full arsenal. Teddy, he's got uppercuts, hooks, combinations.
Has he missed yet? Did I miss something? And here's Tyson. He goes to his corner. I think this is about the 5th round.
Right.
All of that is causing damage to Tyson's eye, left eye particularly. And what does his corner do? No end swell. This is the Three Stooges with a latex glove with water in it.
Teddy, how does Aaron Snow not have an end swell in there in the corner?
Well, quite honestly, Don King put his guys in there. You know, he wasn't putting guys in there that had experience, guys in there that, at that point, at least, Snowball was very inexperienced. He got more experience later, but he didn't put guys in there that were the best guys because of their, you know, the apprenticeship they had served. He just put in guys that he could control or he felt comfortable with, and Tyson felt comfortable with, not on a professional level, but as what he thought were guys that would make him comfortable, friends. You know, Jay Bright, it was a joke. Jay Bright is in the corner there. I mean, I remember he used to make a nice quiche, you know, years ago up in Catskill because he was a vegetarian and everything, but...
That's a little harsh, though, Teddy, right? This was a guy who, too, was in the gym with you guys in the early days, the guy from the house and who was there in the camp, right?
Well, no. He made a good omelet, too. But I'm saying...
that's his concession.
I mean, yeah, I'll make a concession. No, he wasn't a guy who trained with us. He was a guy, quite honestly, that was going to college to become an actor. He wasn't a guy who was part of being a fighter, who was going to become a trainer later on. That was not part of his assignment. That was not part of what Jay Bright was looking to do.
But it was a link to Cuss at that point for Mike.
It was a link that he was in the house and that he was a guy that, of course, was part of Cuss, but not part of the boxing development, not part of the mechanics.
And obviously, they didn't spare any expense on their little trappings in the corner with anything to treat cuts or bruises or swellings. P.S. I don't think they expected this to happen or go past the first round.
Well, that's a good point. Yep. Actually, that's a real good point. You know, they assumed, they took everything for granted. You know, this was just another number. This was just another name. They were just going to go in there and he was going to hit them and they were going to go home. It didn't matter if you had professional people in the corner.
Or end swell or anything.
Yeah, because when he hit them, they were going to go home.
All right. We've got more coming up. We've got Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson. Again, it gets fascinating in the later rounds as Buster Douglas would be tested and taste the canvas. We're back after this.
Left hand chopping right misses. Uppercut landed by Mike Tyson. That's one of the few uppercuts he's landed in the fight. We've been looking for that all night. Oh, that's a nice uppercut that time. That drops Buster Douglas. The count's up to 2 and 3 and 4. His eyes. And then you get into the area of 86 where he actually had to go 10 rounds against Quick Tillis. Was his longest appearance at that stage and hasn't been a lot of rounds since then.
Step back, both. Step back. No punches, step back. All right.
And it's, you know, a real strange thing in my mind. I'm saying to myself, hey, is Mike mentally prepared to go the distance in this fight? And if so, he better start winning some rounds.
Sorry?
Mike looking a bit lethargic to me for the first time that I've seen him in his career. Oh, nice jab by Tyson that time. See, again, I don't want to give you the false impression that Mike couldn't end this at any time because he still has thunder in both hands. And you get the idea now that the adrenaline's pumping here in the 6th round. Mike has got to realize that he's behind in this fight. You know, he's a guy that things have come very easy for him so far. Now he's got a man who's standing up to him. And this is when they separate the great champions from the guys who are around for a while, is how they face adversity. And Mike has got to rebound from this because certainly Buster's having a good time of it to this point. Whatever the case may be in the eventual outcome, this is turning into a terrific fight. And it's going to be a memorable one. Look at Buster with the movement. Mike continues to stay flat-footed, not showing a lot of boxing skills. We haven't seen any uppercuts from Mike. We haven't seen him dip down. And looking again, almost lethargic, looking to land the big blow, which he's thrown about 3 or 4 times in this fight. A couple have landed, but Buster's been able to gobble them up. See, that one's just off. We're in the closing seconds now. This is the 6th round. And every time Mike does that hop, skip, and a jump as the bell ends the 6th round, Buster seems to realize it and backs off. This is for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. Mike Tyson in the black trunks having a very tough time of it against James Buster Douglas. You know, coming into the fight, emotionally speaking, Buster probably has everything going for him. A lot of talk about the death of his mother and the dedication, that this is his night and all of that sort of stuff. But, of course, one big shot from Mike Tyson can end all that speculation. And Mike looks like he's really trying to land a big shot here in the 7th round.
Punch in there, right? Yeah. Break. Break. All right, break. Come on, get in
the way the fight's going to this point, you at least have to begin thinking the possibility of an upset, because I have Buster considerably out in front of my scorecard. In fact, at this stage in the fight, I don't have Mike Tyson winning one round. I scored the last round even. I was stretching to score it even for that round, and I scored the first round even, but I scored 2, 3, 4, and 5, all in favor of Buster Douglas. Buster, one of the real nice guys in the boxing game, having the best night of his life. Mike, if he's not having an off night, he's not having a great night. He's not able to execute a lot of things. His hands aren't real busy. He's throwing a lot of wide punches, and every time, just like that time, you see that big shot being landed by James Buster Douglas. Octavio Moran. Again, you see the jab, holding Mike off. And more often than not, he's landed. Oh, look at this shot inside by Mike that time. Doesn't seem to hurt Buster. He's in great shape, there's no question about it. Look at him pushing Mike off. Now, there's something you haven't seen. Buster has got the confidence of perhaps, you know, you go back to when Leon Spinks fought Muhammad Ali. When you get to this stage in the fight, you had to just say, you know, hey, maybe I can beat this guy, Muhammad Ali, is Spinks thinking. And now you definitely get the idea that Douglas is saying, hey, I can beat Tyson. He's not so tough. And when a fighter believes in himself and he's ahead on the scorecards, if he doesn't run out of gas, how dangerous can he be? I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing. There's the first, second uppercut we've seen by Mike Tyson inside. Buster trying to get off with a kind of half right-handed uppercut that time. Both guys, and Buster showing a little bit more fatigue here. I think Mike probably having his best round of the fight to this point. Nice shot inside. And now you get the idea that at some stage here, Mike can land a big shot and end this fight. There's the bell ending round 7.
I love to draw.
We return to Gleason's Gym. Ringside, Mike Tyson, Brian Kenny, Teddy Atlas, Burt Randolph, Sugar. We're getting now further into this fight with Tyson and Douglas. We've already established that Douglas is fighting beautifully, but Mike Tyson would have his moment in round number 8. Let's pick up the 8th round.
Here we go with the 8th round. And let's see if Mike can sustain what he started in the 7th, or if Buster is going to get right back on top of his game. We're in Tokyo, Japan. I'm Bob Sheridan. You're watching the heavyweight championship of the world. Mike Tyson throwing a little bit more leather here now in the early going of the 8th round. Buster tying him up.
Break, James.
Expecting to see some fatigue from Buster. But no matter what the story is, you never expected it to be in the 8th round of this heavyweight championship fight. Buster looking a little bit sloppy now. In the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, Buster able to back Mike off with that jab and then land the right hand behind it. Let's see if we can get back to that. Oh, instead Mike lands a pretty good right hand of his own inside. And there's going to be a sense of urgency for Mike. I think his corner has told him enough that, you know, you've given away a few rounds. They don't have the advantages that we have with the replays and the punch stats that's relayed to me, but by the same token, they've got 2 eyes and they can see that to this point in the fight, Buster Douglas is ahead. But in this 8th round, Buster's not the same guy he was in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and even into the 6th round. Mike trying to sustain what he did in the 7th here. We find out from the truck again that Mike only averaged about 25, 26 punches through the first 6 or 7 rounds, and he's already throwing more punches than that, I think, in the 8th round. He's busier. And again, for about the 6th time, Octavio Moran warns the 2 fighters about the heads coming together. Neither fighter been down, neither fighter visibly shaken. Mike has puffiness by the left eye. Buster, a little abrasion by his left eye. Wow, with the left hand is Buster Douglas. Buster drops that big right hand, but Mike takes it on the gloves, and he backs off Mike again with the left. Wow, with the right hand is Buster. Buster trying to really work the left eye of Mike Tyson. See it right there, right on top of it, just as I say it. Wow, with the right hand that time is Buster. Buster trying to finish this thing, and you get an idea Mike is trying to finish it as well. This has turned out to be a pretty good fight. And the fact of the matter is it's Buster that's making it the fight. Look at these shots landed by Buster Douglas. And if Buster was out of gas in the early going of this round, he's got it back together in the late portion here. Grazing left hand, chopping right, misses. Uppercut landed by Mike Tyson. That's one of the few uppercuts he's landed in the fight. We've been looking for that all night. Oh, there's a nice uppercut that time that drops Buster Douglas. The count's up to 2 and 3 and 4. His eyes from where I'm sitting look fairly clear. It's up to 7 and 8. And here it is at 9. Is he going to get up? Yes, he does. All right. And the bell ends the 8th round. What a round for Mike Tyson. Wow. What a turn of events.
Made a mistake. Got inside the
We're going to show you some replays here.
Take it deeper.
Now let's listen to the corner just a bit.
You got it. Double your jab. Straight right hand.
Trying to get his bearings back, trying to get those legs back. As you look at the replay, it'll be an uppercut from Mike Tyson that eventually catches him. And there it is. Look at that. It's a clean right uppercut. And down went Buster Douglas. Different angle. Look at the head snap and the perspiration fly. And that's the Mike Tyson we've been looking for all night. And now the big question is, can Buster get it together between the 8th and 9th round? Look at that. What a vicious uppercut.
All right, Douglas goes down. Bert, did you think he'd get back up?
Oh, yes, you could tell he was going to. He's slamming the canvas. Very upset, because it was a momentary, if you will, flash. He had left himself open here on the ropes. He's really pounding Mike Tyson when Tyson hits him with a left uppercut. Here it goes. He's there. It's a right uppercut.
Yep.
All right, so I'm dyslexic. He hit him with a right uppercut,
There's the
pounding on the canvas. And what is happening here is going to play back later, not inside the ropes, but outside. Because Octavio Maharan, the referee, counts very slowly at the end of the round. Gets to 9, Douglas gets up. He had picked up the count late, but it's on his count.
Right.
Later on, after what is inevitably to happen happens, Don King herds the head of the WBC and the head of the WBA into a room in the back of the Tokyo Dome, the egg, and he tells them that he was down more than 10 seconds, therefore that's a long count. Tyson won, he's still champion, and they try to get the referee, Octavio Maharan, to change his opinion. He won't, they still come out with their decision, and they don't understand the firestorm that will happen.
Teddy, your thoughts on a man going down, and that Tyson uppercut is a hard shot. He can put you down with any shot. That was a hard shot. What are your thoughts on Douglas getting up?
You know, the amazing thing about that was the greatest moment in a fight for Tyson actually was the coup de grace. It was the final shot in the head, so to speak, for Tyson. Because once the guy got up, Tyson was done.
He had it.
Tyson left the arena soon as he got up, because when he dropped him and the guy actually had the audacity, the gall, and more importantly, the spirit and the heart to get up, and the character, that was the end right there. It was over. Tyson was just going to wait for the referee to stop it. And if you watch the rest of the fight, he became a game quitter. He took a lot of shots, but he didn't try to win anymore because his spirit was completely severed when that man got off the floor.
All right, a fascinating analysis. Let's go to round 9. Again, Tyson Douglas in Tokyo.
Well, here we go with round number 9. Now let's see if Mike can sustain it. And he's got the adrenaline flow going. He wants to end this thing now. The 9th round of a fight we never expected to be this far. So no matter what happens, we give a lot of credit to Buster Douglas for making this a big, big fight. Tyson trying to end it with one big shot again. He's down, he comes with the uppercut. Somehow or other, Buster's throwing shots back. Look at this. Buster is not ready to pack it in. His mind is willing, or his legs still there. Mike misses with that vicious left uppercut this time. We're in the 9th round, a place nobody expected us to be in. Look at these shots just loading up by Mike Tyson now. Mike wants to end this. He's had enough of Buster Douglas for one night in Tokyo. Buster seems to have the bounce back in his legs. In fact, he looks better right now in this, the 9th round, than he did in 7 and 8. In his history, when he's got fatigue, has been to buckle, but he's not buckling now.
No.
He's doing the right things. He's still sloppy, mind you, in some ways. You know, Buster's mother, who died a couple of weeks ago, might be watching him and giving him just that extra inspiration that he needs. Whatever it is, he's fighting back like I haven't seen Buster do. Certainly in the Tony Tucker fight, when he got in trouble, he kind of, well, he folded up. There's no question about it. But Buster has something special going tonight. We're past the midway point in round 9, and I expected Mike. Look at this! Look at Buster coming back! Did he buckle the legs of Mike? I don't know. He caught him again. Buster fights back strongly, landing some big shots. And now he can't get killers. Look at this! Who would ever have expected this? In a round and not Buster would back it in. He comes back, showing the heart, the tremendous heart that we've seen sometimes in Lackey and others. Tonight, Buster's got the heart back. Wow! Mike now is the one that's hanging on the ropes. Without the ropes, Mike may have gone down as well. I haven't seen Mike in this kind of trouble before. Look at Mike actually grasping to hang on. Mike missing the shots. Buster loading up the shots now. A seesaw battle it's turned out to be, from 6, 7 into the 8th and now the 9th round. Buster down, as you know, in the last round. Come off the canvas. This has been something he's not been able to do. Closing seconds of the 9th round. And this is a big surprise. All right, there's the bell ending the 9th round. The significance of what we just saw is Buster's history has been, when adversity comes, he's had trouble coming back. Mike's history is, when he gets a guy in trouble, he's a great finisher. Doesn't have the good balance. His legs together as Buster's landing these. Oh, nice uppercut by Buster Douglas. Look at this. He's knocked Mike Tyson down for the first time in his career. Mike Tyson hits the canvas. He's in big trouble. He may not be able to recover. It's up to 7 and 8. He's not going to make it. Unbelievable.
We return here to Gleason's Gym. Brian Kenny, Teddy Atlas, Burt Randolph, Sugar. We're ready for round 10. And as Teddy said, a guy kind of shutting it down after Buster Douglas got back up. Here we go. The coup de grace, if you will. Round 10 of Tyson Douglas.
It was late in the 8th round when Buster was in a lot of trouble when he got knocked down. But in the 9th round, Buster actually came back. Look at these and these replays. You see Mike get one big shot in there, but Buster landed 2 or 3. And look at this. Buster catches him behind the head, another flush left hook, trying to get those arms free. Bangs the body back upstairs in the head. Buster doing just about everything right, but Mike landed that big shot in between, but it didn't take a toll on Buster.
Round 10.
Buster Douglas absolutely having the night of his life to this point. Oh, Mike tries to land a big right hand to open the 10th round. Mike wants to finish this thing in the worst way. And according to my scorecard, he almost needs to. Let's see if Buster can sustain through the 10th round. Oh, right hand landed as the referee was breaking them. Mike misses the uppercut. Mike's left eye is really closing up now. As they take a look, I get a good shot. Well, you can't see it, but I can. And his eye is really absolutely closed on the left side. That jab of Buster was good in the early going, but the big surprise to me is the way Buster came back in the 9th round. Look at this. Buster not intimidated. He wants to keep it going. Mike actually, his legs, notice his legs in these wide shots. He doesn't have good bounce in his knees. Buster's legs actually look fresher to me. See Mike, the way he went back in his heels, doesn't have the good balance. His legs together as Buster's landing these. Oh, nice uppercut by Buster Douglas. Look at this. He's knocked Mike Tyson down for the first time in his career. Mike Tyson hits the canvas. He's in big trouble. He may not be able to recover. It's up to 7 and 8. He's not going to make it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Unbelievable! Buster Douglas is the new heavyweight champion of the world. This has got to be, if not the, one of the biggest upsets in the history of boxing. Buster Douglas, the new, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. It happens here in Tokyo, Japan. Wow, what a surprise! Mike definitely confused. Oh, what a surprise, folks. I've called a lot of great fights over the years, but this upset, if you take a look at that left eye of Mike, certainly one of the biggest. Aaron Snowell just there told Mike that he was counted out. Mike kind of obviously unaware of what happened. And look at Buster. John Horn there. Rory Holloway. A lot of concern in that corner. What a scene here in Tokyo. Who would have believed this? Boy, I'll tell you one thing. When the heavyweight championship is on the line, this is why, folks, you can't afford to miss them, no matter who the opponent is. This is unbelievable. 2 jabs. 3rd jab, a glancing blow. Mike's legs weren't there at this stage, in my opinion. Still coming forward, and there is just a great uppercut. And it's that uppercut that had Mike back reeling, and then followed up by a real strong left hand. And as it worked out, that's all she wrote, as Mike is now about to be counted out. Wow. Boy, you talk about Mike being out of breath and out of gas in some of the big upsets. This is unbelievable. I'm out of breath and out of gas. This is a draining fight to call and to watch. But what a great sporting event to be at. I mean, you're talking about Clay Liston, Spinks and Ali, some of the great upsets of all time. This is going to the record book. Folks, what you've seen is now, I mean, now that I can think about it, is really a very, very historical fight.
So there it is, the end of the reign of Iron Mike Tyson. He'd pick up a belt later on, but this, now we know in hindsight, was it, Bert?
Yes, I mean, this is the end of his period of greatness. And so the youngest man ever to win the heavyweight championship becomes the youngest man ever to lose the heavyweight championship.
Teddy, just beyond the psychological points here, did he not move his head the way he had previously, or was it that Buster Douglas was that good that night?
When we look, of course, in hindsight at guys that he moved his head better with, yeah, he had nights where he was crisper, where he was more elusive, but he never had a night where a guy showed this kind of resistance, where a guy was there from the beginning to the end. So, to me, Tyson was exposed in areas, defensively, offensively, and most importantly, emotionally. What happened was, we found out that Godzilla did not have green skin. There was paint on that skin, and it wasn't real.
How did you learn about this, Teddy? You weren't watching this fight, right?
No, I wasn't. Actually, I was out and I was driving back across the Gallows Bridge from the New Jersey Turnpike. I remember that, and I was paying the toll at the bridge, and the toll guy goes, "Buster Douglas knocked out Tyson." Yeah. Sure. Get the hell out of here. Give me my money back. You must not be a toll guy. What are you, conning me over here? No, seriously, he did.
That's stunning. So even after all that had happened, you know, again, leaving Kevin Rooney, everything that's happening in his personal life, everything spiraling downward, that still stunned you. Knowing everything, with everything you knew, that still stunned you.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to pretend to be Nostradamus or be a, Monday morning quarterback. I thought that the fall of him was going to happen, because sooner or later, if you're weak inside, it's going to show
But did you
outside
think
sooner
it-
or later. But that night...
Did you think it would be against
No,
Douglas?
no, there's no way that I thought that they were going to bring a guy to Tokyo, a guy that had submitted in the past, was going to be the man that was going to do this. No.
And it was a shock. It really was. Talking to people who were there, their jaws literally were agape. They almost were on the ground after the first round, let alone every continual round, and the same thing was happening repetitively. It wasn't as if this was a lucky punch.
Right.
This was a lucky 3,000 punches.
You know, it was amazing because the weekend of what was his retirement bout, Mike Tyson, Kevin McBride, after you got inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame, I went down to Washington, D.C. and saw that fight. After the fight where Tyson is retired, someone asked him, hey, Mike, you're disappointing all the fans. What about your career? And he laughed and he said, my career ended in 1990. I give him credit for knowing that, this was the end of where he was serious, the end of where he was a champion.
That was the end of it. It happened on that night. That was the end of his greatness, or his potential greatness.
From there, a heavyweight attraction from that point forward. Well, we enjoyed it, guys. Thank you so much. We had a great time here. We thought you enjoyed it as well. We hope you did. Thanks to all of our guests, Larry Holmes, former heavyweight champion of the world, Teddy Atlas, my co-host, Burt Randolph Sugar, and of course, thanks to Gleason's Gym here in Brooklyn, New York. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We're watching ESPN Classic Ringside with Mike Tyson.